All right, are we on? We are on. We are back. We are back with a panel discussion here. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see a scattered array of chairs. We got the autograph lineup still here. Everybody, nice to see you. Hi. Nice. Thank you for the nod, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah. All right, so the topic for this discussion is investing in the hobby. I see a lot of people investing their time right now. That's great to see. Welcome, everybody. Everybody on the stage here right now is investing and invested in this hobby in one way or another. We've got, to my immediate left, Kyle is also known as King of the Cards on Instagram. King of Cards, King of the Cards. However you want to say it, you can follow him on Instagram. Great content, King of Cards. We also have Mr. Brendan, Mr. Coach Co. Coach Co, investing a lot of time in expanding the hobby and bringing it to people's attention, predominantly on TikTok, but also on Instagram and other platforms. And we have Steve Morse, also known for his brand Mr. Minty. He helps bring people's cards into a state where they are primed for grading to achieve best results. And in the second row, last but not least, Mr. Karn Rai, co-founder of Slab Sharks, and congratulations, they were just named eBay Canada's Entrepreneur of the Year, and that is in the sports card category. Give them a big hand. And they are a consignment company selling cards for you on eBay. So we're going to talk about investing in the hobby. We're going to start with this question: is how are you all investing in the hobby? What are you guys doing to do that, and kind of why? So Kyle, what are you doing to invest in the hobby, and what is your motivation behind it?
Well, I think it starts with being here. So, traveling to a place like this, I'm not from Toronto or surrounding areas, so I invest my time, invest my money into cards and the market, and being able to travel to a place like this, so many people focused on the same things, and come in here and make major card deals, major transactions on some of the more special cards that I didn't think I'd be finding at a show like this. That's my investment in continuing to learn and connect and be part of the community, and hopefully through content that I put together, bring more people into it and connect them further.
It's really important that you're doing that, because we do want to see this hobby. We all love this hobby, and the more people that come in it, we think it's a benefit to them because we get so much joy from this hobby and this space. Let's go to the back row. Karn, how about you? How are you investing in the hobby, and why are you investing in the hobby?
Yeah, I think on a macro scale, I'm investing in Canada for the hobby. I'm investing my dollars to build something that I wanted in this country when I was selling cards growing up. When I was 10, 12, 15, even 20 years old, there's not a lot of avenues in Canada to sell your cards. So with Slab Sharks, we've created a consignment service that is, fulfills a gap in the industry, which is the ability to liquidate your cards quickly and at a great value. And that's what we've done, and we've spent a lot of money creating an intuitive website and app. And it's been a great year so far. As Jeremy mentioned, we won the Entrepreneur of the Year award as well with eBay, and we are eBay's #1 card consigner in Canada.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a huge achievement and accomplishment, and I love that you're investing in the hobby in Canada. I think, you look out in the crowds today, and I've never seen anything like this before. The hobby seems to be very healthy, and I think it's partially because of what people who are putting their time and efforts into it. So kudos to you. Coach Co, check out his reels on TikTok and Instagram. I mean, listen, I feel like I know how you are investing, but I'm going to ask you, how are you investing in the hobby, and why?
Yeah, so for me personally, it's about educating myself and others, understanding that there's always something to learn. I think that so much of this hobby has to do with telling stories. If you're purchasing your favorite card, a lot of that has to do with the story that's attached to that. Game Used jersey has a story. These patches, Game Used patches, even factory patches to a certain extent have a story. So in investing time and energy into educating myself and educating other people, and partially is because when I first jumped into this hobby headfirst, after collecting here and there for pretty much my whole life, one thing or another, I really realized that there was nowhere to go for education in the hobby. I felt kind of lost. There was a bit of a disconnect between what most people knew and what I didn't know. And so I try to, whenever possible, create an avenue where people can go and just figure out either what's going on currently, or perhaps, speak about something that's happened in the past, and they can use that information to formulate better decisions.
Right on, man. I think that's really good. I think what part of the theme, especially with you two here from the content creating side, is you're investing in the future of the hobby. And myself too. By the way, my name's Jeremy Lee. I haven't said that yet, and I host a show called Sports Cards Live on YouTube and podcast, interviewing the who's who of the hobby. And that's kind of what I'm doing too. Is I'm trying to invest my time in the future of the hobby, because we love collecting. Collecting, I think, is you have a gene. It's something that's kind of inside of you, and you want to. And I think a lot of people who aren't collectors but are sports fans, many of them have the collecting gene, but it's dormant. And people like us as content creators can help to awaken that dormant gene. Steve, you are also you're investing in a company and in a career in the hobby. Tell us about how you see yourself investing in it, and why you are.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm investing mostly in education in products for the collector. There's so many new collectors here in the space, even old collectors, and card condition and education in education in card condition is so important. So I'm educating collectors on a daily and showly basis on the condition of their collectibles, and providing great products for them to understand card condition themselves.
Right on. All right, so let's go to the next question for most of you, I suppose. Is cards themselves were originally created as a premium to help sell other products. Originally tobacco in the 1910s, even the 1900s, the 1910s, in the 20s, it became about selling chocolate bars or ice cream, and then it became about bubble gum in the 30s, and right through almost until really the end of the 60s or so, it was about bubble gum, and then it became a real thing in the 70s, 80s, when finally, at the end of the 80s, it was about just selling the cards. There was no more gum in cards, especially after like 92 or so, something like that. So they became the product, not the premium. That's an interesting transition. But the roots of the hobby is about collecting and building a set. Now a lot of people look at the hobby and sports cards and memorabilia as an alternative investment, as an asset that you can own. There's many ways you can have. You can long-term hold, you can short-term flip, you can be a dealer, you can start up a new company in the space. It's really turned into a whole, I'm going to just go out on a limb and say, multi-billion-dollar industry. What are you guys seeing out there in your travels? What do you think about that state of the hobby? How do you feel about, it kind of going from being more of an innocent sort of just collect and check off all the boxes on the checklist, into being, there's so much value now associated with cards. You could walk the hallways here. You can walk through all the vendor booths, and there's cards, $100,000 cards out there. There's probably several of those in the room. What do you think of when you see that, Kyle?
I think it's special. You touched on where all of this stems from, in terms of that they were used as something to sell something else. While now I think that sports themselves and the players that we look up to that are on these cards are actually selling the cards. I feel like that script has flipped. So now we have these pieces that we see as assets, and our way of investing in them. Sure, you have fantasy sports and sports gambling, but to have a tangible asset that represents that individual and kind of curates their value into what some call a piece of art, I think it's incredible. I think it's a very viable investment. We see a lot of different ways of doing so. Prospecting, very dangerous. Some blue chip cards, dangerous because as great as they are, there's too many of them. But one thing I've seen hold true throughout all of this is that there are certain pieces that have a reason to be as valuable as they were and are and will be.
Well said. Well said. Karn, I'm going to just spin it a little bit to you, a little bit different to you. Kyle used the word asset. And there are people in the hobby space that refer to cards consistently as assets versus collectibles. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's the preferred direction for things to go? Would you like to see it go back to us just not referring to them as assets, but referring to them as collectibles? Or is that just the natural progression? What are your thoughts?
I think the best way to invest in sports cards is to invest in the collectability of sports cards. And for me, collecting is what the bread and butter of this industry is and the foundation of this industry is. And I think the way to truly invest is to go and search for a set or a player that you love and collect all his cards and maybe just pick and pinpoint the ones you think may rise in value in the future based on the concept of, the fact that the market is going to grow. And as the market grows and more people come in, as you can see at the expo here, coming here, I thought I was going to be late because that hallway, it takes 20 minutes to walk down that thing. There's a lot of people in this hobby. There's a lot more money coming in. Buy what you like, but pinpoint it in a way that you understand what sets have desirability, so in the future you will get your investment back.
Right on. All right, another spin for you now, Coach Co. A big part of the hobby, really since the mid to late 90s, is grading. We've got PSA in the back there. They've been around a long time. Beckett Grading, up-and-comers, Tag Grading, the automated grading company, which, full disclosure, I am an investor in. That's one way that I've invested in the hobby, is putting my cards into tag slabs and investing in the company, because I'm a big believer in it. But the fact that we are now putting our cards into these plastic slabs to, number one, preserve the condition, and also to have that third-party opinion on what the condition is, and then increase the saleability. It seems like it's really hard to sell ungraded cards outside of some, modern patch cards and that sort of thing, but vintage and all that. So my question for you, Brendan, is what do you think about the fact that, up until like the mid 90s, grading wasn't, third-party encapsulation grading wasn't even a thing, and now it is the thing. What are your thoughts on that as it applies to the investability of cards?
Yeah, so I think that we've gone the complete opposite direction now, where everything is getting graded. I mean, we went through 2 years where people are grading every base card, and if you can mark it up by 10 or 15%, like that's something I'm gonna that's value, right? I think that we've since come back down to earth, obviously, because if you look at some of the prices of PSA 10 base cards, they barely cover the cost to grade. So a lot of them have kind of normalized. It depends on the player, it depends on the circumstances, obviously, it depends on the set. I think that grading is an asset when it comes to vintage cards, especially as technologies continue to improve with respect to creating fakes. Having someone else, an expert with provenance, tell you that this card is legitimate. Now, I will say that a lot of these grading companies don't provide any sort of reassurance with respect to insurance policies or anything of that nature, except for one. So it becomes tricky, but at the very least, I mean, it's an extra set of eyes. It's someone who's experienced in that space, and I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And Steve, the question I'm gonna ask you on this sort of line of discussion is, we have grading companies to help to protect, to provide that third-party opinion, and that really, the reason I don't know if everybody knows this, but I believe the reason grading was created in the first place was really with the advent of the internet and the global marketplace, and people now buying cards remotely, sight unseen. Not like being at a card show where you could look at it and look if there's a crease or any color added or any dings on the corners. You are now buying them from somebody across the country or in a different country, and you didn't know. They could say it's in mint condition, but it could have a crease on the back, and they didn't show you a picture that really disclosed that. In addition now to having grading companies, we have companies like yours, Mr. Minty, where you are actually preparing cards for people to be graded. And so I'd like you to just speak a little bit to because that's an additional level of investment people are making. They have to pay your fee so that you can help make sure that they are really exploiting the grading of their cards. How much of a benefit is a company like you and the pre-grading process, the cleaning of the cards? How much? I know it'll be hard to quantify, but just if you could speak a little bit about how is that adding value to the hobby for people who are investing in those services?
We had a ton of value by complete transparency up front. Okay, much like Tag that provides transparency on the back end, we provide transparency up front to the collector, so they know exactly what's going on with their asset in real time. You know, because grading ties up your card, your time, and your money. Okay. Anything could happen in those 1 days to 2 months where your card's being graded. So in real time, a collector or an investor can know what's going on with their card that they may not have previously known or not had the education on, on card condition. And we let them know and set a realistic expectation level of where their asset currently is.
All right. Well, thanks for that explanation. I think it's makes a lot of sense to me, guys. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this up. I want to thank you guys for joining. Let's go invest some of our time now. After investing some of it here, thank you guys for being here. Let's go invest some more of our time out there on the floor.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jeremy.